Hello, everyone. I'm going live and I'm just gonna wait not too long, 30, maybe 30 seconds or so. Um, yeah, maybe I'm gonna wait 30 seconds or so as I share. Hold on a second as I share this video. Oh, technology. As I share this video into my group. So I'm just going to share this into my group, Immigrating to Canada, Strategies for Success. And then I'm going to talk about my topic. I don't see myself going live here. I think it's going to take a few minutes on the stream. But for those that don't know me, my name is Sylvia Waldman. I am a Canadian immigration lawyer, but I'm also more than that. I am a career coach and business coach for internationally trained professionals seeking to connect to basically career, education, and business opportunities that will support their Canadian immigration goals ultimately. So I'm just going to start my broadcast, but I want to be able to share it into my, there we go, share it into my group, and then I will chat about the topic. So there we go. I'm sharing it into my group, Immigrating to Canada, Strategies for Success. So the topic that I wanted to just pop in on today and talk about briefly are basically 3 tips on how to use social media for your Canadian job search. So essentially, of course, we know that we live in the world of social media, and that includes everything from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of these tools, and of course, I mean the internet in general, but all of these tools, right? But the issue becomes, well, how can you harness social media for your Canadian job search? And what I mean by that is, if you are somebody who is not in Canada already, perhaps studying or working, for example, on a postgraduate work permit, which is the most popular type of permit, of a work permit for people who've studied, then are able to get a chance to work in Canada for 1, 2, or 3 years. Basically, how do you harness the power of social media and use that to your advantage for your Canadian job search? So basically, tip number 1, and I see this so often in my Facebook group. Again, the group is called Immigrating to Canada, Strategies for Success. So there's over like 2,000 people in the group. So basically, what I see most often is that their Facebook profile is not really being utilized to maximize their social media presence. So what do I mean by that? You know, people have, and I've done some posts on this already, people have what I would consider a strange picture. Now, I'm not going to go through a definition and show examples of what I mean by a strange picture in your Facebook profile, but basically things that just are not appropriate. So I'm not going to give examples right now. I think I might do a separate post on that perhaps at some point. But basically, use your judgment. If your Facebook picture is not a decent picture of yourself that looks like something that if you were applying for a job, or for example, if an employer is searching out, which more and more employers or human resource professionals that are into hiring people or bringing down the number of potential candidates that are interviewed for a job, and this does include, you know, people who have skills perhaps that an employer needs that cannot be filled by a Canadian or a permanent resident. So this is aimed at you, anybody who's outside Canada, who's, you know, basically wringing their hands and always, you know, wondering, how am I going to find a job? How am I going to connect to an employer? Well, there are many steps to that I've talked about in earlier posts, and I've talked about in my 5-day Canadian job search challenge emails that went out this last week. But basically, in terms of the social media and how it can be used in your social media presence, you've got to treat your profiles. Facebook is of course the big one, but if you're on Twitter, if you're on Instagram, if you're on Pinterest, those are the big ones. There are of course many others, but you've got to treat your profiles as if it were a resume. Basically, if an employer was going to search in Google and look for your profiles, number 1 is, I mean, do they exist? So they should. You should have a social media presence to some extent in this modern age. And if you don't, it says something else about you. Perhaps an employer might wonder, are you for real? And, you know, what are you about? They're trying to get a sense of who you are. So basically, you should have social media profiles, of course. And number two is basically they should be professional in nature, right? They should look. Now, of course, we know that people can post whatever they want on these profiles, and you know, in terms of the social media networks. But really, going forward, I would suggest if you're looking at it from a Canadian job search strategy perspective, really use your profiles to try to position yourself for a Canadian employer eyes, or Canadian human resource professional eyes, or recruiter's eyes. Think about the picture, think about what you're posting, or think about what you share publicly in that sense. Don't overthink it, but really, you know, start thinking things through. At least your picture, at least what it says in the, you know, in the sort of about you, or you know, what in the top left corner of Facebook, for example, you know, it'll kind of give a little spot where you can talk about yourself, so you can use that strategically, you know, to really say in, you know, a few words what you are, what you're looking for, you know, potentially wanting to immigrate. You know, you could say something like in the express entry pool or something, right? Or whatever it might be. Same thing for Twitter and all of the others. So really use the profile. Number one is to create a more professional look in terms of photo and what you're posting and what your profile description says. Number two, the next tip is really then, if you have that, number two is don't be shy and don't ignore basically, you know, looking to social media to search out potential employers that you might want to target. So once you've done your, what I would call your homework, and prepared yourself in terms of being Canadian employer ready, and I've talked about this in other posts, if you're Canadian employer ready, if you have an express entry profile, if you've, you know, done the IELTS and you've got a decent mark of 6 or 7 or higher, if you've gotten your foreign education assessed by an approved agency. So I mean, if you're going on the path of being, you know, Canadian employer ready, and you've got yourself a you've got proper profiles, social media profiles, as I was just commenting in my first tip. The next step is really to then search out what social media profiles the potential employers have. Now, I mean, again, keep in mind that in general, for anyone who's not in Canada and who doesn't have, you know, Canadian status or permanent resident status, basically, you know, you're probably going to be targeting really medium to large companies. You're not going to be targeting like Joe's convenience store down the street to support your Canadian you know, immigration goals and career goals. It's not really going to go hand in hand, because of the requirements that immigration is increasingly putting on employers who want to support people from outside of Canada, who want to support their goals for immigration. So you're really targeting, you know, usually medium to large companies who almost certainly will have some sort of social media presence. So again, searching them out on Facebook, on Twitter. It doesn't mean stalking them, but, you know, searching them out, liking the page, following the pages, following the Twitter feeds, all that kind of stuff is, again, a step number two, or tip number two, to how to really use social media for your Canadian job search. You know, what are you going to find? You're going to obviously just get a sense of the company's culture. You're going to get a sense of like, what are they posting about? You know, and then eventually it might be that they're posting jobs. More and more recruiters and, you know, human resource professionals, who are the main people that are, you know, dealing with hiring of employees for, you know, medium to large companies. Basically, of course, they're using social media more and more to even post job advertising. You know, it's going to be on their website, but they're going to, you know, interlink their website and also interlink, you know, all of the resources like Monster, Workopolis. It's going to be interlinked to social media, Facebook posts, Twitter, etc. So that's, you know, tip number two. Connect with them once you're ready, once your profile is ready on in the social media feeds. Connect with the employers that, you know, you can connect with as many as you want, right, in terms of Canadian employers who might, you know, be a good match for your skills, and who you want to, you know, hear about potential hirings that might match your skills, or hirings to support, you know, foreign workers. And then, you know, tip number three would be basically engage. So once you've got your profile, once you're following or, you know, connected on some level with with companies, you really want to engage. Now, engage does not mean, tweeting, find me a job, or, inappropriate tweets or inappropriate messages to, to like human resource connections for these companies or recruiters. I don't mean that. I mean engage and connect in a meaningful way. So what does that mean? I mean, if you are, for example, I'm trying to think of something. I didn't really think of an example. If you are a foreign trained, engineer that has to do something with, for example, I don't know, purification of water or something like that. If you're, into civil engineering, and there's something like that, and you're following, let's say, a company in Canada that, that deals with this, right? And you're following, and then you see some interesting posts, perhaps some new technologies, or, new acquisitions of certain, I don't know, certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Certain certain technology, acquisition of certain, I can't even think about it. Yeah, certain technology. Basically, you might want to, you're not posting for a job. You're posting to show that you're engaged and that you are a professional in this field, even if you're not in Canada, even if, you don't have a work permit to work there. You're not at that stage yet, but you're trying to build a rapport and build, again, nurture the social network, right? This is what, social media is all about, right? It's not all about you, and it's not all about, selfies and all that kind of stuff. It's about engaging. So there's, your profile, there's the employers, pages and Twitter feeds and all that stuff. And then there's the engagement, right? So again, using it strategically to get engaged, connect, and then stay engaged, and, post, tweet, but, again, you're posting things like comments, reactions to the company's posts and tweets and whatever it is, because you're trying to show that you are a professional and that you're engaged. And then that will leave a footprint, of course, so that, if and when you are applying for a job, and that's an employer that you're applying for a job for, it's going to all fit together. You can literally like refer to these kinds of posts. I know it seems kind of far-fetched, and it seems kind of theoretical, but I'm going to share a post after this this live stream, just an example that I was giving to a career coaching client last week, and it's just a strategic way that, more and more, that you don't have to be sort of like the superwoman, superman, to really use social media in a strategic way, because it will make you stand out. It will, because 99.9% of people may think about it, won't do it, and then, if you're the one who does, these 3 steps, making sure your social media profiles, whatever they are, whether it's just Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, making sure that it's professional enough, whether it's your YouTube channel or whatever it is, right? Having a professional feel on some level, your picture and your posts and your description of, of yourself. Number 2 is, like I said, connecting with the companies on these social media platforms. And again, connecting, not like basically begging them for jobs or stalking them and all that kind of stuff. And then number 3 is really engaging and staying connected, after you've connected, so that you can engage in a meaningful way. It doesn't mean posting 100 times a day on the Twitter feeds of these companies, or, HR recruiters or whatever, but it means engage, a few times a week, showing that you're engaged, especially LinkedIn. I've been talking a lot about Facebook, but, LinkedIn, again, is very important. That is the professional platform, right? So, if you're making sure your profile, same thing, making sure your profile is proper. There's no such thing as perfect, but making sure it's as professional as possible. Number 2 is, connecting and following the kind of companies or associations or whatever in Canada that are connected to your field of study, skills, etc. And then number 3 is, again, engaging, but engaging doesn't mean you're begging people for jobs. It's very inappropriate to do that. You are trying to engage to, again, build a rapport and maintain a relationship, and, posting in a meaningful way, so that when and if jobs become available that are, the skills that you have, even if you're doing these kinds of things regularly, you will kind of stand out. Or if you are then applying directly for, jobs that come up, you can, again, refer to your post, or people will look at your profile and, and see the post, essentially. People, HR recruiters, and, like I said, recruiters, HR representatives of companies, etc. So those are my 3 tips on how to use social media for your Canadian job search. If you are somebody who is outside of Canada wondering, how you can stand out, those are 3 tips that I think that if you start applying basically immediately and start really, again, cleaning up your profiles, creating proper profiles, engaging with Canadian employers that might be potential employers for you for your skill set, and basically engaging in a meaningful way and posting in a meaningful way, I really think in 1, 2, or 3 months you're going to see a difference. You're going to see how social media is beyond just selfies and posting pictures and friends and all that kind of stuff, which is of course important, but really using social media in a very strategic way for your Canadian job search. So hopefully that was helpful. Again, my name is Sylvia Waldman. I am a Canadian immigration lawyer, but I'm more than that. I am a career and business coach for foreign trained professionals looking to connect to education, career, and business opportunities in Canada that will support their Canadian immigration goals. If you found this helpful, please like my business page. Please follow my business page so you'll get notified when I go live, because that's where I'll be live streaming from now on and sharing it into the group. And please share this video to anyone, any group that you think might find this information useful. So signing off, have a wonderful Easter weekend for those that celebrate, and I will be back soon.